Hey, welcome everybody to the weekly sprint for what is today, July 26th. I'll just do a quick intro, and also on the call joining us today and joining to help us with project management is Paige Bailey. Hey, Paige.
Hi, folks. I'm delighted to be here, but I have a hard stop at 9 a.m., so gotta run down to the other end of the hall, if that's okay.
That's totally perfect. We never make it longer than a half an hour because video stops us from being able to record.
So. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Excellent.
In the Slack, I put it together an agenda, but it's literally like 4 items. And I was actually hoping that I'd get someone to do a show and tell. But since I didn't do that in advance, I guess I won't unless somebody has anything they can think of that they want to show off. I'd like to at least go over kind of plans, progress, and priorities and find out what's blocking folks. I know that originally there was something blocking for the paper mill work because there was a PR that we wanted to get in before the sprints, but that's now in. Matt merged it yesterday or this morning. I don't know.
All I did was click the merge button. I didn't do any of the work, so
we just had to keep prodding to get that one finished. So
yeah. Now we have to get M's PR so that it's actually respected.
And then be converted. And then we need to change the front ends. So this option that we're talking about is to basically run paper mill with a report mode, so it always hides input. So it'll take in a notebook and spit out a new notebook, but with no code showing. So when we run paper mill as a job, we're basically just producing reports for viewing and defaulting to that experience. So that's awesome.
Watch out, Tableau.
Does paper mill have a way to generate a bunch of parameterized cells?
It is the way to generate a parameterized cell today. So it'll, if you flag a cell as parameters, it will then treat that as your defaults.
Yeah.
It will change that to default parameters, and it'll inject a cell right after that called parameters. If it can't find a parameter cell, it'll just inject it at the top of your notebook.
So I have this issue, and I'm completely self-serving here, but I'd love to use nteract to be able to do. At work we have 17 different storefronts that all have their own specific data, and I'd love to I want to show basically the same chart with different data, 17 different storefronts, and so I wanted to just create a command to go off and create these 17 different cells by iterating through an array in one cell. Is there any way that you could think about doing that easily right now in nteract? I can't hear you.
Oh, you'll have to unmute, Matt.
Sorry. I was muted. Yes. One thing you could do, just if you want them all in the same notebook, is you can make the parameter an array, because it takes any YAML or JSON as the parameter. So you can pass it, let's say you have, 27 targets, and then you could have your graph subject area be an array that's 27 long, and then you could loop through them. Now the hard part is making an individual cell per element. I don't know of a clean, easy way to do that.
It almost seems easier to actually just work with the Python API and write code that creates the cells using MB format. The same thing that we do in paper mill, but it's basically build the tool you need to create the notebook structure that you want, and then it does mean that you're going to adopt your own scheme for how you're going to work with these templates, but
a little bit. But you could emulate what we do. It's not very many lines of code, and we could show you during the sprint. You could read the notebook in the same way paper mill does, find a custom tag you have, replicate the cell with that tag k times, and then pass your parameters into that.
I'd love to be able to do that. It would be great to see that and document that sort of thing, because it's what the business intelligence sort of stuff I'm doing for work these days wants that sort of data. So it'd be really nice.
I think we could do it in less than 10 lines of code.
Rad.
See, now it's like a challenge. I think it's okay if you do 11. So
Well, it's Python, so I can cheat and make everything one line of code. You just won't. It won't be good.
And since it sounds like we're asking questions, I was wondering if anybody would be interested in speaking with one of the sort of general managers at Microsoft about collaborating with our docs team. Right now we have a goal, like an end hope of being able to embed code cells within our documentation platform directly. We do it right now for a few things. So like if you want to spin up an Azure virtual machine or anything of that nature, there's actually a command line interface embedded within the web page. And you can execute the commands. It does all of the magic on the Azure side, and then you can see the resources displayed. They want to be able to do that for interacting with like Python SDKs and some of our visualization tools. So is that something that folks would be interested in seeing or doing, or is that capable today currently or on the roadmap somewhere?
So I think, so we actually have some components that do this, but they interact with the binder APIs. And one of the things that we're going to try to like formulate a little bit better next week is our data layer and how we're working with the messaging. Because it's largely been very situated towards how the notebook works. And we had different iterations where we've made this better. And like you can see in our component docs, we're now doing it where we have an example where you can basically run code in line within React components. But yeah, we could do that. I'm curious if Alex is interested or if M is interested in looking at that. I think M jumped on a little bit late during the like description of going after it.
Sorry about that. No worries, it's all good. So the idea would be that if this is sort of a usable solution, and it sounds like it is, to embed code cells within web pages, it would be kind of implemented throughout all of docs.microsoft.com, which is kind of a substantial open source documentation platform. And it would also give us the opportunity, if you wanted to insert kind of branding for Interact. Like I'm sure they would be open to see like a little button towards the bottom that's like, oh, this is brought to you by Interact. So
that sounds awesome. Also, an example of that today with backed by a binder kernel in docs is the Spacey.io docs.
Oh, dude, you guys are responsible for Spacey. Okay, awesome.
That's
no. Somebody else actually, they wrote the implementation.
The binder side of things is what's helping them, but we're not responsible for Spacey.
Well, no. I know like Inez and yeah, but like the documentation is beautiful. It's so nice and so well architected. So
that is all them.
Yeah. Okay.
But the execution parts of it are provided by binder in an analogous way to what Kyle was talking about embedding code cells in web pages.
Perfect. So I am going to CC if any of you guys would like to be CC'd on the email to the general manager guy, Dan Fernandez. He's awesome, about potentially collaborating on embedding code cells within the docs. So is everybody down to get included in that, or should it save people's inboxes? Or
I think so. And if anybody's willing to just come down next week, tons of us will be co-located in Los Gatos.
Excellent.
I don't know if that's practical for them, but they're very welcome here.
We might have a couple of, because our documentation team is global. It's globally dispersed remote. We might have some people in the Los Gatos area, so I can check.
Well, also
awesome.
It's a global sprint. So if any of them want to remotely work on stuff with us, we can also like enable that. Like that's part of the point, is to be inclusive of everyone everywhere. But
excellent.
Yep. Yeah. So,
perfect.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. This sounds fascinating.
Excellent.
I'm quite interested as well.
Perfection. I am, and I'll put a link to the sort of spin up a command line interface one. Launch Azure VM Docs Microsoft. The documentation I've been really impressed with. I've just seeing how it's grown over time.
Where were you putting those notes, or was that to an email to us, or because I don't see it in the meeting agenda?
Gotcha. I was just taking notes in a notepad off to the side, but I can, if there's a dynamic document, happy to put it there too.
Yeah, I put together an agenda, but it was pretty light. But then I shared it out way too late. Oh yeah,
I put it in the chat.
I totally forgot that existed. I was like, oh man, I put things in Slack, so many channels, so many mediums.
No worries. And so that's the example of the documentation, and there's a little try it button that launches the Azure command line instance. And you have to sign in with an account, which makes it kind of clumsy. But the idea for this, I think, would not have to be authenticating with any sort of credentials. Perfect. And I am copy and pasting.
We definitely want to pull on the binder team for this larger thing, because identifying when people are running code that you don't want to be running for free when it isn't authenticated, such as blockchain code, is kind of crucial. And so, the larger binder team has a lot of expertise in identifying that and like catching it early and stopping it.
So I think because it's a docs group, now I'm just having a guess, it means that you're probably going to interact more with front-end devs and the folks that are writing docs. And so you'll end up wanting to like defer to Azure's own, how they handle it, because they give out lots of free infrastructure now. And like, this is all going to run on top of Azure instead of Binder, so it'll be kind of their own setup.
Oh, okay. I thought Azure required credentials, so I didn't realize that. Like even when free things were given, I thought there was still a credentialing process, so I didn't realize that. Sorry.
At least speaking at a hosting company, my perspective is that if people are paying for resources and they choose to waste it on blockchain and waste it on crypto, they're probably spending more money on the hosting than they're actually gaining from trying to mine it.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
I'm really happy that my Outlook account is, of course, my Minecraft account, so it was super easy to log into.
So now we need to put Minecraft in your Jupyter notebook.
Yeah, I've done that before a little bit. And if you see the Minecraft Pi edition, it actually, you can program it with both JavaScript and Python.
Do you know what that translation layer is?
No idea.
I don't know either.
No. And I think they did it differently. Like the one that's in yeah, I shouldn't go into the weeds on Minecraft. Anyway, good stuff.
We're recording this, Kyle.
I know, and that's fine. It means that we'll gamify what views happen on YouTube based on the fact that we talked about Minecraft. All right.
So
okay.
do we have information? Where's the information on like what initiatives are being done?
So are you talking about for the sprints themselves?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you go to github.com/nteract/global-sprint.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll type it over here. And in there's projects, and then each project has their own specific area. So like if there's a project that you want to work towards, you should make one. There actually isn't one for Papermill, so I should keep prodding on that. But like, hey, outline what you think you want to do. It's okay if the project is even like, I just want to do some like maintenance work on this over the week, or explore something. So
yeah.
But it's not like you're stuck with any one project. You can, pick and choose what you want to do. But if you put one in there, then you can hopefully bring others together. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about other people, but I'm just kind of coming to be told what to do a little bit more than like, because I don't know about other people who are coming. I don't know if this is the only group, but I just feel like uncomfortable with the code base these days. So I'm just trying small changes and block away time to actually push meaningful PRs for a few days.
It might
But
be worthwhile to identify what it is that made you uncomfortable with the code base so that we can avoid making people uncomfortable with the code base in an ongoing way. Just
yeah, it's just like it's mostly just like not knowing how the Webpack config works well to like get things like hot reloading. You know, like if you update a package, does that change interact, and just knowing this scenery well enough to what direction to go in. And
What,
the one
something
project
might be confusing?
well, what I was going to suggest is one project that you might have personal interest in pursuing then would be writing up something that would explain that once you do feel like you understand it, so that we can point other people to that if they feel confused.
absolutely, I'd really love to do that. Or maybe just like I'm sure there's docs that exist that I haven't read. So
And I would say, I think you're touching on the right point, which is that it's not completely clear how the Webpack stuff works in all cases, especially since we have multiple apps in there. And I think it may sound scary, but I don't know if I totally understand all of it. And on some level, I just made things work and then went, great, now I can go get done what I need to. So if you go after it, it'll be okay if some of it's not understandable, because it's not all that's easy, and I don't think everybody wants to work on build tooling all the time. So
right.
That being said,
oh, go ahead.
if you like, you don't have to also be running a project to kind of put in ideas of things you might want to work on. So if there is something in these veins or something that you're curious about or want to dig into, and maybe find someone else that would want to do the same thing, feel free to put it in there. Because I think I put a bunch of paper mail things in there, but I don't think everyone wants to work on paper mail. I mean, I would love it if everyone just worked on paper mail during this sprint, but I bet there's other interesting parts though to look at.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to like learn paper mill from you, which is great.
I was excited. Oh, sorry. I was excited to see all of the documentation requests. So using things with Matplotlib dark mode, I think, and Data Explorer and how-to guides. I think that would be awesome to have.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was more just suggesting that the way to figure out what to work on if you are in the position where you have any challenge with anything is always what is that challenge and how can you make it easier for others? Like, is sort of a good way to figure out what docs need to be written.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually looked at the paper mill docs in like 4 or 5 releases, so I'm betting there's some stuff in there that is a little aged.
Yeah,
I think we can update quite a bit.
sorry to have pushed you towards leading another project, John. I'm glad that you spoke to your feelings towards it, because there'll be plenty of people that are happy to push you in directions. We're happy to have people working on stuff.
No, yeah, I think there's plenty of stuff that I can just be a drone rather than a leader, because it stresses me out to think about leading something because I don't know anything. But I'm really looking forward to coming and seeing all of you, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Where are we meeting this weekend? Do you know?
So Netflix will be open.
Okay.
I'll let everybody in. You can, to get in, you're going to ping me on Slack, and then I'll post to everyone that's signed up through Eventbrite. So if you haven't signed up through Eventbrite, you're not getting my email. To everyone on Eventbrite, where to go and the location details and all that.
Sorry, I think
I'm usually less cagey about it, but I've since learned that since trying to put up the Eventbrite, that the mere fact that I try to run something in Netflix means a whole bunch of people get interested in it. that are not necessarily like wanting to be on it. They're just like hoping that they can put a vendor presence in here. And I was like, yeah. And that was really interesting to find out.
You'd just be glad you weren't trying to set this thing up in the LA building.
Oh yeah, that would have been really hard. I mean,
It's
like
a lot harder to get in that building.
I'm really happy to enable people, but sometimes, and it's not to like put down any vendors. I don't know if I'm probably not giving a concrete enough story towards this, but effectively people that are like, oh, we want to like, they're
Kyle,
not
you're
there
in a
to
safe
do
space.
anything.
Put down vendors, okay? You're allowed to complain about vendors.
Well, it doesn't. I'm not complaining directly about vendors. I mean, like, because vendors are good. I don't want to have to build everything. I want to be able to buy things too. Um, what I mean is people that are interesting in contributing. How do I put it? The as part of the gift economy that is within open source. Yeah, I don't have full formulations of this, but it's just I get really interesting emails nowadays, and they're not the same kinds of emails I got when I worked at Rackspace.
Is there other stuff we should cover about kind of how the sprints are going to run since it's in our agenda?
Yeah, so on the global sprints page I put an outline of what's happening. The weekend we're going to leave as kind of a somewhat of a free-for-all, in that, like, you know, people can work on the projects and get started up, but I declared Monday as the official day to start the sprints, just because some people can only kind of do the weekend and then Monday and Tuesday, or even just Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then on each of those days, like for those that are in Los Gatos, we'll have breakfast and lunch. And then I've put, I've slotted times for when we're going to, you know, I could share screen, so I'm not trying to like talk about it from nowhere. Share screen. Agenda. So at the end of each day, I've put down an optional show and tell, because I'm expecting that people might build something or want to talk about a PR that they went through, and we'll broadcast that out, or, you know, we'll do an overall video conference. So if people are remote and working on stuff, they can also participate in the optional show and tell, so they can show us or we can show them, and kind of go across there. But basically every day has the exact same schedule of breakfast, meetup, and only Monday will I do kind of like an introduction, like, hey everybody, welcome, and then try to kind of get everybody mixed together to meet others. But that's it. So yeah, day 0 is Saturday. Day 1 is Monday.
How many people are we expecting for the different days?
How many people are expecting? It's in the Google sheet. I'm not sure offhand.
If people filled it in.
If people filled it in, but we have 18 people signed up, but I think it's basically a half split, except for Monday we'll have everyone, likely. But most days I think we're going to have like 9 people. Yeah. So it kind of seems like we'll probably have, like, there's a bunch of folks that want to work on the docs initiative, because I think there's at least 6 or 7 people on that. And then for Data Explorer, I think there's like 3 or 4. And then some people have expressed interest in like doing both. So like, you know, dedicate a few days to one and a few days to another one, which I think is really great because it means that you'll at least get cross-pollination across these without just doing one project for the entire duration.
Is there stuff people are going to be on for Saturday that want to dig into? Like ideas of things they wanted of the agenda that are going to be there on Saturday versus Monday? I think Monday we'll have everyone, but on Saturday there may be, you know, some people may be in for a shorter period or coming on Sunday or Monday instead.
Yeah, on Saturday, I'm actually hoping I wanna actually go over some of our like data model pieces, especially as they relate to us doing the developer docs, because I think a result of doing the developer docs is we're going to find many more warts in how we're doing the library interfaces. And so we may want to end up coming up with a good plan of like, okay, what do we really want to expose here so that we're telling a good narrative in our documentation about how to interact with the Jupyter protocol and like how people would build apps on top of them. So that's at least what my intention to focus on is, because I know that Ben is going to be here Saturday. Alex is going to be here Sunday. I don't remember your schedule, John. And then M said maybe from Saturday, Sunday, and so did Matt. So
I'm likely to be there. I just there are sometimes issues on weekends. That's all.
yeah, and that's okay. I mean, like I wanted people to feel very comfortable just being like, I can't be here during all of it, and yeah, that's totally okay.
Can we? I'm going to be in on Friday. Would you like to? I might just try to meet up with friends, but if anyone wants to hang out somewhere and hack on Friday, I'm happy to do that.
So I think
You mean
Kyle,
tomorrow?
me, and M are gonna be not around on Friday for most of it, unfortunately.
Yep, that's true.
Last week we had talked about a potential ScreenFlow tutorial sort of thing, or screencast tutorial, Kyle, that you would run. Would you want to do that on Monday, maybe?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering because it seems like there might actually be like 3 areas where we should probably do kind of like mini workshops where people could dive off. One would be ScreenFlow, another one would be Sketch, and I like threes, so there should probably be some third thing. So hopefully someone comes up with something. Yeah,
You play around with Figma?
I love Figma.
It's kind of a competitor to Sketch, right?
Yep.
Well, we also could try to incorporate that kind of a optional workshop thing in the days during the week, and then we can still have a regular schedule, and then people can go to the things that interest them. Oh, my page. Does that make sense? Like, it rather than trying to co-schedule them, what we could do is just have a room dedicated to that effort, and then anyone else who wants to continue to hack on things doesn't go in that room.
We're gonna be in one of the larger rooms, right?
Yeah, but I was definitely expecting we'd do a separate room, so I think that's a good idea. I don't think we should try to book it in advance just yet, especially if we're gonna like book it over time. I think like we should probably find out after a few days of like getting situated whether or not like, or like when we're gonna have like the most people, and if people are interested, to kind of get them to sign up for it, and then we go ahead and book the room here.
I was figuring Monday would probably be the day that we have that conversation, since that seems like you said to be the day when the most people are here.
Yeah. Cool. I've got, I guess with our 2 minutes left, I can talk about one thing. So I guess I have a few concerns about our components. Maybe I shouldn't say concerns. Where's the positive direction? Alex and I have started on making a new component library suite that will all be together and is going to contain the presentational components, as well as like things like buttons, button groups, a lot of stuff that was necessary for the data explorer, but for which we didn't really have an offering of what our unified design was. So we're starting that up, and then we're going to learn from other component libraries. And I'm sure some folks have probably wanted to, like, I don't know if people think of it now, but it's like, well, why don't we just use one of the ones that are there? And I've been through this conversation enough, and I don't mean like enough within nteract. I mean like over the past 800 years, or however long I've lived. And it almost ends up being that if you adopt some UI framework, that you end up needing to build new components, and all of a sudden they don't actually mesh well with the rest of the app that you're working in. Like they give you enough controls to get something started, or their design is a different direction. So like Material UI is a really good example. Like I really love the Material UI components. They're almost entirely built for making mobile and web apps where you're a consumer rather than a producer within the app itself. And there's at least, so I've outlined I'm screen sharing. There's at least 3 other component libraries that I think are really good and hit the same kinds of areas as us. And those are Atlas Kit from Atlassian, Blueprint from Palantir, and Ant Design. And we actually use a bunch of the Ant Design components now, but then we've run into these weird idiosyncrasies about how they want things to be styled and where we want things. So we're endeavoring on building a new one, and then we'll create sketch files, because a lot of these actually have their own sketch files inside where you can kind of put together the app you want. And I'll show some of this off. And I was kind of thinking about this while we're like building the docs itself. Working in the monorepo is like, it's hard. It's really difficult a lot of the times. And it's like, if we just like focused some of the like UI elements as a separate repository, we at least have one that's friendly to not having to have Electron or native dependencies. And so this one builds up and is able to run right out of the box. And so it's called Ion, or if you look at it this way, it's interaction. It's really weird now, even now, not having our I, but yeah, interaction. And then most importantly, it's interact React components that are missing Electron. So this is it. So as we build it out and work on it, the great thing, so for any given PR, if you push to the main repo, we get a deployment. And so I can click. Oh yeah, and then we have to wait for instantiation. But as soon as like you build your PR, you get this live version of what you've changed. And so everybody can see and view the visual element of your component design that you've done live online. And then I made it public so that anybody can see the logs, as in anybody external from us is able to, because the hope would be that they come in as a collaborator, they should be able to see some of this stuff. And then once they get onboarded into membership, which is as easy as just making PRs and getting into it, they'll be able to do the same with theirs, and then we'll just kind of build up from there. Yeah, that's the basic intro for it. Yeah, oh, here we go. And then this is us going at it. It's the same kind of thing as we did for components.interact.io, except now like it really is the components.interact.io, but we're gonna just keep building out a whole suite for them. It's missing some of the customizations I put on that before. Yeah.
Just to say a quick thing from the contributing standpoint, as Kyle mentioned, it's outside of the mono repo. So when you run tests and build it on Circle, it takes like no time at all, and that'll just make you so happy in comparison with the mono repo. So very, very contributor friendly. So anybody at all that's interested, I'm definitely going to put together a project for this for the week, and you know, we need as much help as possible. So anybody that's interested, don't hesitate to get involved.
How do we get to then see these components in the monorepo?
They have not been imported yet into the monorepo. They're
Okay.
like a separate thing until we're at like a base level. I think so. The objective that I put in was that we should get the ones done for Data Explorer, and then Data Explorer is likely going to be the first one to adopt components from Interaction from Ion.
Got less than a minute until this meeting closes.
Yep. All right. I'm going to call it. Great to see you all.
Looking forward to seeing you
during the sprints. See you soon.
Can't wait to meet you all.
Great to see everybody.
Same.
Excited. Sprint, 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 sprint.